Hi, welcome to the Monday review, coming to you this week on a Tuesday. Due to the unique way French air traffic control is working at the moment, my travel back from Prague, where I'd been working at the weekend, was rather long and rather laborious, and has resulted in a busy Tuesday. So here we are. But I was still keen to get a video up because, for all that the focus at the weekend was probably on the flat and Champions Day at Ascot, I thought there were a few interesting races from Newton Abbot and particularly Kempton on the Sunday that merited a bit of attention. The race that caught my eye at Newton Abbot on Saturday was the limited novice handicap chase, where JPR1 made his chase debut against a good Paul Nicholls horse, Isio, who'd won really impressively on his own chase debut a couple of weeks before. JPR1 is a horse that's long been on my radar. He was a good-looking horse whenever I saw him. Done quite nicely over hurdles, albeit hadn't sort of been a top-notch novice hurdler. Had missed a little bit of time through injury. But he's a typical Tizard horse in that he's got that embryonic sort of chaser in the making stamp about him. That's a phrase I don't like because I've mentioned plenty of times. It's all well and good having the physical attributes to go and jump a fence, but if you haven't got the heart and the desire to jump these bigger fences, and indeed the ability to organise your feet to utilise that big, strong chasing frame, it's not much good to you. But he looks like he has taken to fences. He was dropped out early by Brendan Powell, maybe jumped the first couple a bit big, but quickly found a rhythm and jumped with fluidity and showed scope and ability when he was in short to organise himself. Picked up Isio very easily in the home straight and very quickly moved clear. The winning margin was just under a couple of lengths in the end, but I think he idled all the way up the home straight. I don't think he was all out and hard pushed. Won this off a mark of 130. He's gone up in the handicap, which we'll touch on in handicap moves and shakers, but I think he's a horse to keep on side. I'd like to see the Tizards keep him to sort of another easy sort of low-grade target for his next run. That's not always the MO of the yard. They're not afraid to go and have a swing at a big one with a fairly inexperienced horse, but I think he's a smart horse in the making, and it'd be nice to see him take their time and sort of build him slowly through the season. Just touching on Isio, he was disappointing. He was beaten a long way in the end, and as I'll probably touch on from the steward's room, stewards did inquire as to the poor running. There was no sort of answer able to be forthcoming. They couldn't explain it. Watching it back, I just wonder, he jumped brilliantly. He's a real slick jumper of a fence, but 4 out, which is the last open ditch, jumped it nicely, and then just on landing sort of caught his both hind legs and dragged it. His jumping was nowhere near as good from then on. He was sort of slightly pitching at them. Didn't look to me like he was sitting and pushing. And I just wonder, and it is a wonder, it's a Millar musing, if you like, or whatever you want to call it, whether he perhaps just pulled those muscles as he caught his hind leg. Go back and watch it, and you'll see what I mean. It's jumping the open ditch, the fourth last, sort of just catch his hind legs, and that can pull over the top of their back, down their back hind legs, which is obviously where they get their power from jumping. And his jumping notably went apart after that. I just wonder if that was the reason. His handicap mark is unchanged, and I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I think there was a legitimate reason for that run. I think he's still a smart horse off his mark, but JPR1 was the one to take out the race, and it's probably a race that will throw up winners. Monvial in second is probably not going to be a bad horse over fences either when he gets his conditions. Then moved on to Sunday and a nice card at Kempton, where Arclight I thought was well worth a mention. She's only a 4-year-old. Absolutely bolted up over fences, jumped from fence to fence, apart from the last where Nico de Bonville had to sit very tight, and she was probably fortunate the fence wasn't a bit stiffer because she barely got off the floor. But I just thought she was interesting. I mean, I think she'll probably win another race if she's placed right. She's won twice under rules now, both times at Kempton, so she clearly likes that track. I think she liked the nice ground. She looked like she bounced off that. Doesn't look like an overly big, robust chaser, so she's perhaps not going to want the depths of winter ground. But that just brought me to my point, really, which sort of ties in with what we said about JPR1. She's by Champs-Élysées out of a Medicean mare. She is the only member of her fairly large family. She's got quite a few siblings to have gone over fences, and she absolutely loves it. Now, you can guarantee that if Racing Post were writing up their preview, they would say perhaps not necessarily bred to take to fences. Just proves that can be so misleading, because she loves jumping fences, clearly. I think she's going to make a better chaser than she did hurdler, and she was good enough within her grade hurdling. I just thought she was an interesting mare, and I'll certainly follow her on good ground around Kempton if they can find another race of this nature. Following on from that was the novice hurdle, which was won by Kim Bay's Destroy the Evidence. A good performance, but I thought it just merited a mention because probably for the second week in a row, Dave Bass gets ride of the weekend in my book. Really aggressive over this 2 mile 5 furlong trip on a horse that stays 3 miles. Going down the back straight, he just started to push and shove away and really use this big galloping stride that his horse has. And I think that's what you want to see, as a punter, as a racing fan. I like seeing jockeys try something a little bit away from conventional. He shows that he'd done his homework, he knows his horse, he knows the strengths, and there'd have been plenty thrown stones at him if he'd have curled up in the last half furlong or so and got collared on the line. But he knew what he was sat on, he knew the way to ride it and was good and aggressive. And it's probably another horse, again, embryonic chaser. If this horse takes to chasing maybe next season or the season after, definitely a horse to follow. Destroy the Evidence for Kim Bailey, who always buys a really good looking sort of horse, I think. Then the handicap chase over 2 mile 2 was won by the Scottish raider Corrigian Rock, down from Lucinda Russell's yard. I think we're going to have to get used to this season. Obviously, Michael Scudamore's taken his team of horses up there. They've built a fairly large team and they're going to have to spread their horses around. But he was really interesting that his winning has been done when he's made all the running, and he wasn't able to do this here. He had the lead for a bit, and then he got taken on, and Derek Fox was able to get him to settle, and then he got to the front, turning in, and again got headed and battled back really gamely and really powerfully up the home straight, jumped slickly, and stayed on really well over 2 mile 2 furlongs. Now, he's never won over that far before. He did try it once before, but unseated. I think on this evidence, he will certainly stay 2 mile 4. I'm not certain that he's by Westerner. They tend to be pretty adaptable with regards to grounds, but he's tried soft ground twice, both times at Sandown, and we know that can be softer than soft. And he finished second both times, so he didn't run badly, but he's yet to win on good ground, and he has had a wind up, so I just wonder whether they'll look to keep him on slightly better ground. But 2 mile 4 wouldn't concern me unless it was on soft ground, and then I think I'd just have to be a bit cautious about whether his wind and his stamina would perhaps see him home over 2 mile 4 on soft. But it'll be interesting to see what the handicapper does with him. Obviously, we won't find that out till next week because that was on the Sunday, but I think he's still a progressive horse. The feature race of the day was the listed hurdle, and Rubo won this in really good style. Off a mark of 147, he wasn't favoured by the weights at all. He had to give £2 to First Street and So Royale, who were baited at 147 and 153 respectively. Now, So Royale is probably not the horse he was, but I don't think First Street did an awful lot wrong. Rubo, under a really good front-running ride from Harry Cobden, who set his own fractions, ran the race as he wanted, was a really impressive performer. Now, he's going to go up in the handicap now. I think handicaps are well out of range from here on in. And it's what they do with him from here, really. You've got the elite hurdle on the 11th November. It's a grade 2. I thought that might be an option because this horse has to go right-handed. And then even the Christmas hurdle. I mean, I'm assuming Constitution Hill will line up for the Christmas hurdle. He's going to scare a lot off. So they might look to go there as well. He's a smart hurdler. And on good ground, right-handed tracks, in a division that might well get cut up a little bit by the presence of Constitution Hill, he might just be able to land another prize yet this season. And then just a final word for the runner-up in that race, Too Friendly. Now, he was off here off a mark of 138. I should think Connections will be slightly holding their breath to see what the handicapper does. Does he handicap him off the 141 that Rubo was going into this race, or does he handicap him against the two that finished behind him? They'll be hoping for the latter. And if that's the case, I think Too Friendly is progressive for James Owen. He seems to have found a key to him, being previously with the Skelton Yard, and he'd been sort of muddling away and looked fairly exposed, but he's improved for the switch to James Owen, as all the Gredley horses have done. They've all switched to James Owen from the Skelton Yard. And I wonder where they might go with him. I suppose you've got the Jerry Fielden, you've got the Betfair Hurdle. I wouldn't even put it past them to stay the Lanzarote trip back round Kempton again on decent ground. But if he gets a reasonable hike in the weights, £5-6 off the mark of 138, so sort of 140, mid 140s. I think he's a progressive horse, and they've clearly found the key to him. And he'd be one I'd follow in handicaps through the winter on decent ground. So that's the Monday review on a Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, if you saw anything at the weekend you thought was interesting, drop me a message on Twitter or put a comment in the section below on YouTube. As ever, please do hit like and subscribe. It does make a difference to the number of people that get to see it, and I can hopefully then tailor this content to something you'll all be interested in. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.